Back in 1965, a Japanese car rolled into American ports so quietly that the dock workers unloading it had never even heard of the company that built it. Packing a 1.3-liter engine and weighing under 700 kilograms, it managed something in under 10 years that no other foreign automaker had ever pulled off. It made American car companies genuinely afraid. That car was the Honda N600, designed by an engineer who believed, almost as a matter of faith, that a combustion engine wasn't just hardware, it was a philosophy. Every part had a purpose, every millimeter earned its place. Waste wasn't just inefficient, it was simply wrong. That mindset built an empire. Today, nearly every car on the road, cheap or expensive, carries innovations Japanese engineers pioneered between 1950 and 1990. Variable valve timing in your engine, the catalytic converter cleaning your emissions, the precision of the assembly line itself. Japan didn't just build cars, they redefined what a car even was. And yet, recently, the CEO of Honda, one of the pillars of that entire legacy, stood inside a Chinese factory and said 4 words that shook every boardroom in Tokyo. "We have no chance." Stick around, because this isn't a simple story about failure. It's about how the exact thing that made you great can eventually be the thing that takes you down. So hit subscribe now, because we're about to break down exactly how that happened. To understand why Honda's CEO reacted that way, you need to understand the foundation Japan was actually built on and why. After the war, Japan had nothing. No domestic oil, no steel, no rubber. Everything had to be imported, which meant every wasted resource was money the country genuinely could not afford to lose. The Toyota production system, later rebranded in the West as lean manufacturing, wasn't originally a business strategy at all. It was survival. Cutting waste wasn't about chasing efficiency, it was about avoiding bankruptcy. That harsh constraint eventually turned into a massive competitive edge. When the oil crisis hit in the 1970s and American cars suddenly looked like inefficient gas guzzlers, Japan was already ready. Their cars were reliable, precise, and fuel-efficient. Honda's CVCC engine, which met U.S. emissions rules without even needing a catalytic converter, wasn't just a technical achievement, it was a statement. We solved your problem before you even realized you had one. Toyota then launched the Prius in 1997, the world's first mass-market hybrid. A nickel-metal hydride battery, an electric motor, and a gas engine working together, it genuinely felt like the future. And for a while, it was. But that success is exactly where the trap sprang shut. Toyota, Honda, and Nissan, some of the most sophisticated engineering companies ever built, looked at the Prius and concluded they'd found the answer: hybrid technology. So they poured everything into making the combustion engine smarter, cleaner, better. They applied that same N600 philosophy to the 21st century. Don't throw away what works, refine it. That's the Japanese instinct. They weren't wrong about the logic. Being right about that logic is exactly what ended up sinking them. Now let's name the actual antagonist of this story. And it's not China, it's not BYD, it's not any single company or trade law. The real culprit is a specific battery format called the prismatic lithium iron phosphate cell, paired with a decision made in Shenzhen back in 2020 that Japanese engineers still find baffling. CATL, Contemporary Amperex Technology, unveiled something called cell-to-pack. Before that, batteries were built in layers, individual cells bundled into modules, modules stacked into a full pack, which meant 3 separate layers of structural casing, 3 layers of dead weight that stored 0 energy and just held everything together. CATL ripped that middle layer out entirely. Picture building a wall the normal way. You make individual bricks, arrange them into panels, then stack the panels. CATL looked at that and asked, what if the bricks were the wall? What if the cell itself carried the structural weight and the panels just disappeared? The result was a battery pack that was lighter, simpler, cheaper to build, and easier to cool all at once. Not a trade-off, not a compromise, a genuine leap where every single metric improved together. Honda's engineers saw this coming. They read the patents, they sat in the conferences, they understood the theory behind what CATL was building. What they didn't understand, what almost nobody outside Shenzhen fully understood, was the manufacturing system behind it. When Honda's CEO walked into that factory, he wasn't looking at a product, he was looking at an entire system. Automated lines running at speeds Toyota's own benchmarks said shouldn't have been physically possible. Quality control rebuilt from scratch around this new cell format. Supply chains so tightly integrated that the lithium feeding those cells was mined, refined, and processed by companies CATL either owned outright or had locked into decade-long contracts. He wasn't looking at a factory that had improved the old way of making batteries. He was looking at a factory that had replaced it entirely. That gap, the one between what he saw on the floor and what Honda could realistically build, not in 2 years, not even in 5, that's exactly the gap behind those 4 words. Here's the part most coverage completely misses. The easy narrative is that Japan fell behind because it moved too slowly, that executives got arrogant, that they dismissed the shift the way Kodak dismissed digital photography. That is simply not what happened. Toyota poured $13.6 billion into battery technology between 2021 and 2023. Honda announced a $40 billion EV transformation plan. Nissan, the company that launched the Leaf back in 2010, years before Tesla even had a mass-market car, had been building electric vehicles longer than almost anyone else on the planet. They moved, they invested billions, they built, and they still couldn't close the gap. Because the gap was never about speed, it was about depth. Chinese EV makers didn't win because they moved faster. They won because they started from an entirely different place. When BYD began building electric cars, it had no combustion engine division to protect, no supplier network built around pistons and crankshafts and exhaust systems, no 100,000 employees whose entire professional value was tied to a technology electricity was about to make obsolete. BYD could design a skateboard chassis with the battery built straight into the structural floor, not because its engineers were smarter than Honda's, but because nobody inside BYD was going to lose their job if that chassis actually worked. Inside Honda, every engineer who spent 30 years perfecting the mounting geometry of a 2.0-liter engine was, in a very real sense, a living institutional argument against radical change. The combustion engine wasn't just a product there, it was an identity, and you cannot disrupt your own identity from the inside. So where does that actually leave Japan now? Honda has bet heavily, almost desperately, on solid-state batteries, a technology that swaps the liquid electrolyte inside a normal lithium-ion cell for a solid material. The theoretical upside is huge: higher energy density, faster charging, and none of the thermal runaway risk that makes conventional batteries catch fire. Honda claims production vehicles with solid-state cells by 2030. Toyota has made the same claim so many times, with the timeline shifting so often that industry analysts have basically started treating it as a recurring forecast rather than an actual commitment. The honest question underneath Honda's CEO standing in that factory is whether solid-state is a real path back to competitiveness, or just the latest version of the same story Japan has been telling itself for a decade. We're behind now, but the next technology will save us. Because CATL isn't standing still either. Their next-generation condensed matter battery, a semi-solid cell bridging liquid and solid electrolytes, is already in production for aviation use. By the time Honda's solid-state line is ready to scale, the target will have already moved again. If this whole story is reframing how you think about what actually beats a company, not speed, not talent, but depth and identity, drop a like and let me know down in the comments, do you think Honda actually closes this gap? That's the uncomfortable truth living underneath 4 words spoken in a factory in Shenzhen. Japan didn't lose the electric vehicle race because of one bad decision, or a lazy decade, or a lack of engineering talent. Japan lost it because an electric vehicle was never just a better combustion car. It's a completely different object, built by a different kind of organization, out of different materials, with a different kind of knowledge sitting at its core. The engine that won the world was perfect for the world that needed it. Then, the world stopped needing it, and perfection pointed in the wrong direction is an extremely hard thing to let go of. The real question isn't whether Honda can eventually build a competitive electric vehicle. They probably can. The real question is whether they can build it fast enough, cheap enough, and at enough scale to matter, while the companies that have never known anything else keep getting better at the only thing they've ever done. That answer is still being written right now, in factories you and I will never see, in battery chemistries that don't even have names yet, by engineers in Shenzhen, Nagoya, and Detroit, all staring at the exact same horizon and seeing something completely different. What do you see? Tell me in the comments. I read every single one.